Welcome back to Mornings with Zerlina. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is an Austin-based immigration attorney, and she's back with us to chat about what HR departments and businesses should be doing right now with the prospect of Donald Trump coming back to the White House. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So the last time we chatted, it was about something a little bit different, maybe more hopeful than I'm feeling right now. I think it was probably more real talk than hopeful. But what specific actions, in your view, should human resources and other businesses, what steps should they be taking right now to prepare for a second Trump administration?
Well, we know that Trump 2.0 is going to be focused on immigration enforcement in the interior of the United States in a bigger way than they were the first time. Really, in the first administration, a lot of the focus was on shutting down the border and stopping asylum seekers from coming in. And while that still is going to be, a big part of their actions, I think they're really going to turn their focus to the interior. And one of the major ways that they will encounter, apprehend, detain, deport immigrants is through going after the people who are employing immigrants. And that can look like Department of Labor audits, I-9 audits, and also worksite raids. So it's going to be really important for employers to understand what's going on with their immigrant employees, how they're feeling, and also for employers themselves to understand what their responsibilities are and what their rights are if they're being asked to turn over records.
What are their rights? So say you are an employer and there is some sort of workplace raid, this sounds terrifying. But if you find yourself in that situation, what are your rights and what should people know about what to do in that situation?
Well, it's really nuanced, and so I can't give, a nationwide piece of advice for everyone. Each company that employees, whether or not they know that they're immigrants, should have an attorney who is available who can help with preparation and consulting in case of an emergency. But in general, if immigration shows up, at the door of a company, in order to enter into the private areas of the business, they are going to need to have a warrant. But public areas are fair game, like, the lobby of an office, for example. So clearly defining what is public and what is private with, having signs on the door is a great idea. But also having a point person who is the contact. I mean, the employees at the office need to understand that this is a risk and what they need to do. But really, most of the employees at the office need to know, go get Bob. Bob knows what to do. Bob's already met with the lawyers, and he knows where, how to respond, what records to turn over, et cetera, so that we don't have people who don't know what to do in a moment scrambling to make really critical judgment, decisions.
What are some ways companies can sort of do a self-audit and see whether or not they're in compliance before anybody shows up at the door?
Yeah, there's lots of immigration lawyers who do I-9 audits as a service. And so they'll take a look at all the records. Every employee, on their first day of the job needs to be filling out an I-9. They need to be showing their documents. Those need to be reviewed by someone. And there can be pretty significant fines and penalties for not having that documentation completed properly. So one of the safest ways to protect a company, obviously, is to have an HR department that knows these rules and regulations, but then also to hire an outside auditor proactively and say, hey, come in, take a look at our records, tell us where the gaps are so that we can fix it. And I would say, another piece of this that's really important, it's less about the company protecting itself, but if you think about the company protecting its workers, first of all, if there's workers who are foreign workers who are on visas, the company should be being very proactive about who do we have, what are they going to need, what's coming up. Let's get ahead of it so we're not scrambling, but also understanding the emotional needs of employees right now. Really, immigrants of all levels, temporary visas, green card holders, even naturalized citizens are feeling scared and under threat. And so understanding that and providing them with resources and letting them know that they have some support from their employer can go a really long way in times like these.
This is such an important point because I think that before the election, most of the conversation, because of the way the media framed it, was about undocumented immigrants and, you know, they painted a very specific picture of the type of person that would be feeling fear or would be impacted by a Trump second term. But one of the things that's become very clear, and I hope everyone listening understands this impacts every single person of, you know, a variety of different immigration statuses, including people who are naturalized citizens. Like, I feel like a lot of people were like, well, I became a citizen, and they think they're like immune from the impact of these policies. And I think what's becoming more clear to people in the months since the election is that this impacts every single person of every status.
That's absolutely true. I mean, they're even threatening to remove birthright citizenship. So
Right.
natural-born citizens, naturalized citizens, green card holders, applicants for, you know, relief are going to be impacted by this. And, you know, I think some of those people don't have as much cause for concern, of course, like when you really dig into what a president can do constitutionally, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to try. And really, as you know, as I've been sort of talking to a lot of people since the election, it's clear to me that lots of people who are paying attention are feeling concerned, and just having a little bit of help and information about what this means for them personally is really important. You know, and similarly, I mean, this goes a little bit outside the conversation around employers, but families need to be planning. Families that have immigrants, this is a really critical moment for them to get together and say, okay, if we've got mixed status in this family, maybe mom has one status, dad has another, what are we going to do if the worst happens? Who's going to be in charge of the children? What's the plan with the family? Where are all of our important documents? Who's our lawyer? These are things to be thinking about now, because really both on the job site and, you know, in a family, if we're scrambling after an enforcement action has happened, we lose really, really critical moments and can make mistakes. Right. And so planning ahead and thinking about what to do if the worst happens, frankly, is what everyone should be doing right now in preparation.
Really, really good advice. In the last few minutes here, in terms of the process of seeking asylum, how will some of the changes in immigration policy impact those people? Because that's a completely separate category of folks.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there are going to be more attacks on asylum eligibility. Most of those changes would have to go through Congress, although we will see changes in border policy, more people probably being sent back to Mexico, more cases being denied, certainly cases being delayed. But I will say in general, I mean, asylum has been stripped down so much since the first Trump administration, and the Biden administration didn't do a whole lot to sort of bring back the protections that we once had. So we're starting in a place of very restricted access to asylum. It's really, really, really tough for people to access or get asylum these days. So will it get dialed down or back even more? Yes, but I think we're going to feel a bigger impact in terms of immigration policy as a country. Like, you know, I was talking about these interior enforcements. I think we're going to start to see these, you know, horrific sort of family separations and, you know, difficult things occurring with families that are already living inside the United States. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't think this is just bluster. I think these are real, actual threats, and we're going to start to see some activity very early in Trump's second presidency, so, you know, within a month or so.
So make the preparations that you need, have the conversations that you need to have with your employer, with your employees, with your family members, because I think being clear-eyed about the risks is step one, at the very least. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney. Thank you so much for being with us and helping us understand this. We'll have you back many times. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.